Who is accountable? When an AI system causes harm, I think there is a confusion. There was a security, product, legal, or business owner. Who is accountable for when an AI system, goes in a weird manner? So,
yeah, in theory, I would say the application owner is accountable. Security is responsible for controls. Legal owns disclosure. And AI governance arbitrates the hard cases. But in practical, nobody. I mean, I think that's where the problem is, right? If you don't have a named person against your AI feature, it generates a confusion in terms of responsibility, right? The data scientist would say, I just built the model. A product manager would say, I just shipped the feature. Security would say, I was not even consulted. Legal will find that out from a regulator. And the application owner will just say, hey, we just realized that we had AI in there, right? So what we did to solve this problem was obviously took it to the AI governance board, where we had legal, security, privacy, data, and the application owner in one room, 1 hour. We discussed the use case, 45 minutes, agreed on the pilot solution. Let's just do it with limited users. Maybe we come back in 30 days as a checkpoint. Everything shipped securely on time. And I wouldn't say the solution was getting everybody together and making this decision. It was more like having that named accountable person who was responsible for the outcome of this AI, right? So the key takeaway here is no name, no launch, right? If you can't have a named person, a named human against an AI feature, your governance is failing, no matter how good the technology is.
Yeah, makes sense. I think the AI governance committee, most of the companies have that. They actually regulate all the specific controls associated with that. That's a good point. I know, Rohan, as a CEO, you might have talked to multiple customers, right? So what governance practices should every organization adopt immediately? Where do companies get governance wrong? Too much control, too little, or unclear of ownership?
Well, the way I would look at it is the first thing. There are a few things that every organization should put in place from a governance perspective, right? And the first one, and I think this is something that Jim highlighted as well, right? Which is you got to have an AI asset inventory. You really can't protect something that you can't see. I mean, it boils down to that, right? So an AI asset inventory of every single agent, MCP connector, tool call, and what's the kill switch for it, right? You got to have that visibility, and you got to have that well documented and referenceable. The second part, I would say, really boils down to what Bhavana said, which is in terms of having accountability. Now, when it comes to accountability, right? So let's talk about an example of you have AI intersecting with the cloud, right? A common use case because you have a lot of application workloads which you deploy in the cloud which use AI as well. Now, look at the multiple kinds of who owns a joint problem statement. You have security teams who might own only the security policy. You have the cloud provider who owns only the uptime. The vendor owns the tools. The networking team owns connectivity. The app owner owns the application per se. But if there's an event, nobody really owns a joint problem, right? So it boils down to having a few things. I would say an executive account owner across all environments, right? And having a single identity governance model, a single telemetry model, and a single logging data lake, essentially, right? But I would also probably put inside over here a functional group, which would be, if you think about it, right, who lives with the operational consequences of poor governance at the field, right? I would boil it down to three people, right? App owner, data owner, security architect. Make them part of a group where for any new AI deployment, they're part of the operational sign-off of that, right? Where in which they take into account that for any new AI deployment, what is the AI accessing? What does the AI do? to what extent or what duration, and whether those are time-bound credentials or not. And that's an important area that will need to come inside from the second part of accountability perspective.
Great point. So I know Jim come from the finance back in the industry, highly regulated. So Jim, from a regulatory compliance, perspective, how are companies preparing for it? What regulation or framework is shaping decisions most right now?
When we look at the regulations in finance, we can't wait on the regulators to tell us how to secure things and what the compliance requirements are, because as you know, it's new to everybody, including the examiners and regulators. So adopting a framework ahead of time is the path we've taken with the NIST framework. I'm hoping that answers your question. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think each financial institution has different, for me, for credit union perspective, we have NCUA, right? And the state DFPI regulations, so.
Yeah, and we have the FFIEC and, of course, the local environments. They're still discovering how they're going to regulate this. And one of the hot targets in discussions with regulators is knowing your vendors. The same thing all three of us have been talking about. That's where they're going to go at you as a business owner or a C-suite. Who are you working with that has AI, and what are they doing with your data? And that's the target right now for the regulators until they can come up with something that's a little bit more targeted around the technology itself. It's really about the knowing the assets, as Rohan said. What assets do you have that are storing and manipulating and transmitting within the AI space?
Good. I know we talked about governance regulations. I think I wanted to also touch here, the business trade-off and an impact, right? Because everybody wants to go fast with the AI, but what's the trade-off, right? So